Hey, everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into how Singapore is carving out its place in the global AI landscape. We'll be looking at this CNA article. It's called As Nations Compete for AI Dominance, Singapore is Carving Out a Niche for Itself. Hmm. It's super interesting, how this relatively small nation is aiming to be a real leader in AI.
Yeah, definitely. And what's striking is how Singapore sees AI not just as some cool new tech, but as a way to grow their economy and change society?
Yeah, exactly. It's not just about like building fancy robots or something. It's about using AI to actually make a difference, right? But the article talks about this huge competition between the U.S. and China when it comes to developing AI. Everyone's heard about it. All those huge investments and like tons of AI companies popping up everywhere. So with all these big players, how can a country like Singapore, I mean, it's smaller than most cities, really compete?
Well, that's where Singapore's strategy comes in, and it's pretty smart, I think. They've got this thing called the National AI Strategy, NAI's 2.0 for short, and their goal is to be a pace setter in AI, particularly in areas that will directly help their economy and, benefit the public.
So they're focusing on what's important to them, being strategic about it. Yeah, I like that approach. The article also mentions they want to triple the number of AI experts in the country, like get it up to 15,000. That's pretty ambitious, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. That's a big sign of their commitment, not just, training people, but building a whole AI ecosystem.
Yeah, makes sense. But what's actually attracting all this AI talent and businesses to Singapore? The article tells this story of Dr. Zhao Zilong. He's a Chinese AI expert who left a really good job in Europe to join an AI startup in Singapore. What made him make that move?
Well, Dr. Zhao's story really shows what makes Singapore so appealing. They've made this really business-friendly environment, so it's like a magnet for startups and people with new ideas. And their laws protect intellectual property really well, so that gives people a sense of security, which is crucial in the AI world because it's all happening so fast.
So they're making a space where AI can grow and like people feel safe taking risks. But here's the thing. The article keeps saying that you need these massive data sets to train AI models. So how can Singapore, with its limited data, overcome that?
It's a really good question, and it seems like Singapore knew this would be a problem from the beginning. So they've got two main strategies to deal with it. The first one is all about collaboration. They're encouraging startups, universities, and big companies to all work together, share their data and expertise.
So they're building a team spirit
Hmm.
where everyone benefits from sharing.
Exactly. And the second strategy is using their position as a global hub to their advantage. Think about it, lots of international companies use Singapore as a base for their operations in the region. So naturally, they bring their data and AI knowledge with them.
It's like they're building this AI ecosystem that's bigger than just Singapore itself, right?
Mm.
And speaking of international companies, the article mentions Verizon using Singapore as a hub for analyzing AI products that are actually developed elsewhere. That's pretty clever, isn't it?
Yeah, it's smart. And this ties into another big challenge in the AI world, which is the lack of talent. Everyone's trying to find skilled AI professionals, and there just aren't enough to go around. But
Mhm.
being a global hub helps Singapore attract people from all over the world.
Yeah, makes sense. Everyone wants the best people. But what about growing their own talent? What's Singapore doing about that?
That's a big part of their strategy, too. They're investing a lot in training their local workforce. They know that for their AI ecosystem to last, they need a strong base of homegrown talent.
It's like planting seeds, for the future. And it's not just about technical skills, is it? The article mentions this woman, Miss Kovan Zen. She's an AI expert, and she talks about how fulfilling it is to use her skills to improve healthcare in Singapore. It seems like they're really thinking about the human impact of AI too, not just the technology.
Oh, absolutely. Singapore gets that technology alone isn't enough. For AI to really work, it needs to be used in ways that help people and society as a whole. And for that, you need people who not only have the technical skills, but also understand, the ethical side of AI, how it affects people.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not just about building robots. It's about using AI to solve real problems and make life better, right?
Exactly. And it's really interesting to see how Singapore is putting people at the center of their AI strategy.
It's like they're trying to find that balance between the technology and the human element.
Yeah, exactly. Finding that sweet spot where AI can actually benefit everyone.
So they're thinking long term, not just about the next big tech breakthrough, but how AI will shape their society in the years to come.
Right, and how they can use it to build a better future for everyone.
That's inspiring.
It is. It's a really thoughtful approach, and I think there's a lot we can learn from it.
Definitely. So We've talked about Singapore's strategy, their focus on attracting talent and developing their own expertise. But, reading this article, I kept thinking, does a country need its own, commercially successful AI product to be a leader in the field? Like, everyone knows ChatGPT, right?
Hmm.
But I had never heard of Sea Lion before, and that's Singapore's AI model for Southeast Asian languages.
That's a fascinating question, and it brings up this whole idea of sovereign AI. Imagine having an AI assistant that not only speaks your language, but actually understands your culture and your specific way of life. That's the potential of having an AI model trained on your own country's data, reflecting its unique values and needs.
So it's about having an AI that really gets you, not just some generic one that's been trained on, random data from everywhere.
Exactly. And for a country like Singapore, with its diverse population and mix of Eastern and Western influences, this idea of sovereign AI is even more important. They can use their unique position to become a hub for connecting different AI technologies, bridging the gap between different AI ecosystems, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So they're not just playing the AI game, they're aiming to be the ones setting the rules and connecting the dots. So,
Exactly. It's a very ambitious vision.
okay, so we've talked about the tech side, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about the human side of AI. The article mentions this need for people to feel comfortable using AI, to actually trust it. How is Singapore addressing that?
Building trust in AI is crucial, and it seems like Singapore is tackling it from all angles. They're investing in education and awareness campaigns, trying to demystify AI, take away the fear factor. It's about showing people the real benefits, taking it out of the realm of sci-fi and into their everyday lives.
So making AI less scary and more relatable.
Exactly. Instead of focusing on the complex algorithms and stuff, they're highlighting how AI can make everyday life better. For example, they're experimenting with AI in education, personalizing learning for each student based on their needs and learning style. And they're also looking at how AI can help with traffic flow, make rush hour less of a nightmare.
Those are great examples. By showing people how AI can solve real problems and make their lives easier, it becomes less abstract and more of a tool they can actually use.
Right, and this approach isn't just about calming people's fears, it's about creating a culture where people accept AI and are willing to use it.
It makes you wonder, what other creative ways are they finding to integrate AI into society? What about the workforce? How are they preparing people for a future where AI will probably play a big role in most jobs?
That's a key question, and it seems like Singapore is taking a very forward-thinking approach. They're focusing on developing a workforce that can thrive in an AI-driven world. And that means going beyond traditional computer science education, encouraging people to be more interdisciplinary.
So are they saying everyone needs to become a programmer?
Not necessarily. It's more about understanding how AI can be used in different fields. They're encouraging people with all sorts of backgrounds, law, economics, marketing, even psychology, to explore how AI can enhance their work.
That's interesting. So it's not just about the coding, it's about bridging that gap between the technology and how it can be applied in the real world.
Exactly. And the article highlights some people who have made that transition successfully. For instance, there's Miss Ni-Ain A-Ling. She has a background in industrial design, and now she's leading product development at an AI education startup. And then there's Mr. Samuel Tan. He's a service designer with a degree in anthropology, and now he's building generative AI products.
Those are great examples. It shows that there's a place for everyone in this AI revolution. You don't have to be a computer science whiz to make a real contribution.
Absolutely. And that's something Singapore is really pushing, encouraging people from all walks of life to see what they can do with AI. It's not just about technical skills, it's about creativity, problem solving, and being willing to learn and adapt.
I love that. It's so empowering. It makes me think about how I can contribute to the world of AI, even though I'm not a tech expert myself.
And that brings us to a crucial point, the role each individual can play in shaping the future of AI.
Yeah, it's about each of us taking ownership, right? Not just waiting to see what happens, but actively shaping how AI develops.
So it's like we're all part of this big experiment, figuring out how to use AI for good. Okay, back to Singapore for a sec. We talked about how they're making AI more approachable for people, showing them the real world benefits. But what about the potential downsides? I mean, AI can be used for bad things too, right? Like, what about privacy concerns or the risk of AI being used to spread misinformation? You're right, those are serious concerns, and it's something that any country developing AI needs to think about carefully. And it seems like Singapore is very aware of these risks. They've put a lot of emphasis on developing AI ethically and responsibly. For example, they've created these guidelines for AI governance, focusing on things like fairness, transparency, and accountability.
So they're trying to build in safeguards from the start,
Mm,
make sure AI is used for good.
exactly. And they're also working on ways to make sure AI systems are secure so they can't be hacked or misused.
That's reassuring because you hear these stories about like AI being used to create deepfakes or manipulate people.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have those ethical guidelines and security measures in place. It's about making sure AI is used to empower people, not exploit them.
It's like with any powerful tool, it comes down to how you use it, right? You can use a hammer to build a house, or you can use it to hurt someone.
Exactly. It's the same with AI. It has the potential to do amazing things, but we need to be careful and use it wisely.
So Singapore is taking a cautious but optimistic approach, it seems.
Yeah, I'd say so. They're embracing the potential of AI, but they're also being realistic about the risks and taking steps to mitigate them.
Okay, so we've talked about the ethical side of things, but what about the future?
Yeah.
Where does Singapore see itself going in the AI world?
Well, they're definitely aiming high. They want to be a global leader in AI, not just in Southeast Asia, but on the world stage. And they're doing this by focusing on areas where they have a competitive advantage, like fintech, healthcare, and smart cities.
So they're leveraging their existing strengths and applying AI to those areas.
Exactly. They're not trying to be everything to everyone. They're focusing on what they do best and using AI to make it even better.
It's like play to your strengths, right?
Exactly. And they're also attracting international companies and researchers to come to Singapore and collaborate. So they're building this like global AI hub where people from all over the world can come together and share ideas.
It sounds like they're really thinking long term, building a sustainable AI ecosystem that will benefit them for years to come.
Absolutely. They're not just chasing the latest trends. They're building something that will last.
This deep dive has been so insightful. I feel like I've learned so much about Singapore's AI journey.
Me too. It's fascinating to see how they're approaching this with a real sense of purpose and a commitment to using AI for good.
Yeah, it's definitely given me a lot to think about. So to wrap things up, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What can we all learn from Singapore's experience?
I think the biggest lesson is that size doesn't matter as much as you might think. Singapore is a small country, but they're making a big impact in the AI world because they have a clear vision, they're investing in the right areas, and they're committed to doing things the right way.
So it's about being strategic, focusing on your strengths, and not being afraid to think big, even if you're small.
Exactly. And it's also about remembering that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
It's up to us to decide how we want to use it,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Singapore's AI scene.
It's been a pleasure.
And for all of you listening, keep exploring the world of AI and think about how you can be a part of this exciting journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
It really is. And it's not just about governments and big companies, it's about individuals too.
Yeah, like what can we as regular people actually do to, make sure AI is used for good?
Well, I think the first step is to just be aware. Educate yourself about AI, how it works, its potential benefits and risks.
So like, don't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend it's not happening.
Exactly. The more we understand about AI, the better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions about its development and use.
That makes sense. So knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
once you have that knowledge, you can start to think about how you can use your own skills and talents to contribute to the AI field.
Even if we're not like programmers or data scientists,
Exactly. AI needs people from all backgrounds, not just tech experts.
like writers, artists, teachers, even philosophers.
Exactly. AI needs people who can think critically about its ethical implications, who can communicate its potential to the public, who can help shape its development in a way that benefits everyone.
So it's really a collaborative effort. We all have a role to play.
Exactly. And the more diverse perspectives we bring to the table, the better the outcome will be.
I like that it's like AI is not just this separate thing that's happening to us. It's something we're all creating together.
Right. It's a reflection of our values, our hopes, our fears. It's all intertwined.
Wow. This conversation has really shifted my perspective on AI. I used to think of it as this like futuristic technology that was kind of out of my reach. But now I see it as something that's already here, something that's impacting our lives in so many ways, and something that we all have a responsibility to shape.
I'm glad to hear that. And I hope our listeners feel the same way.
Me too. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Singapore's AI journey, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest lesson is that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's up to us to decide what it looks like.
So it's not about passively accepting whatever technology comes our way. It's about actively shaping it.
Exactly. We have the power to use AI for good, to create a more just, equitable, and sustainable world.
That's inspiring. It's like we're not just passengers on this AI train. We're the engineers. We're the conductors.
And we have the power to steer it in the right direction.
Well said. That's a fantastic note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Singapore's AI scene. It's been a real eye-opener.
It's been my pleasure.
And for all of you listening, stay curious, keep learning, and most importantly, use your knowledge and your voice to shape the future of AI. Until next time, keep exploring.